Hi, my name is Marcello Valencia,
Hi, I'm Kristy Tran.
and we are doing The Rover by Afra Ben. All right, so just a little background about Afra Ben. She is the first playwright, first female English woman to live off her writing. She was a playwright and a poet, and she wrote during the Restoration period, which is when King Charles II was in reign, and she was actually a spy for him too, which is a really cool fact. And prior to her being successful, she did struggle with debt a lot, and so did have a stay in debtor's prison, which is just a cool fact. All right, getting into the show, The Rover. So it opens up with Florinda and Helena basically just complaining about their woes and what's going on. Helena not wanting to become a nun because, as she says, quote, "It is the job of their people to love and be loved." And Florinda basically is just telling about how she really doesn't know love, but then Helena's like, don't you love Belleville? And she like blushes at the face. Don Pedro enters and states that Florinda must marry Don Vincento because she's rich and that is her father's want to inherit that fortune. But if he had his way, he would have her marry Don Antonio. He then leaves them in the care of Callis, the girl's governess, and to stop them from going to the carnival, but eventually the girls convince the governess to let them go with her and alongside their cousin Valeria. Next, we find Belleville, who is complaining about his inability to marry Florinda due to his lack of wealth, and he is talking to his friends Frederick and Ned Blunt. They are later joined by Wilmore, aka the Rover, and are soon met with Florinda, Helena, and Valeria all in mask, and basically because it's a masquerade during this festival. They start talking to the boys, and Helena and Wilmore she reads his fortune basically, which basically means they're just flirting, and he declares that he will never love another. Florinda does the same with Belleville, and tells him, she gives him a note that says to meet her in the garden later that night. A prostitute named Lucetta comes up with the idea alongside her pimp to rob Ned Blunt because he is obviously very wealthy and does not look like he is from the region. She approaches him, seduces him, and goes home with him. Don Pedro walks by and causes all the girls to run away in fear of being caught. This allows Belleville to read the note and realize that the person in the mask that was flirting with him was Florinda herself. Belleville then pleads with the men to help him go to Florinda, and during this conversation, they realize Ned Blunt, who has left, has all their money. And Frederick, alongside, mentions that there is this new courtesan named Angelica, and how she has put herself up for sale for that month. And just a thing to know for this play, prostitutes aren't sold by like the night or the day; they are sold by the month in this show. Wilmore convinces the guys to go visit her house and try to get her after they die. Frederick, Belleville, and Wilmore are heading to Angelica's house, where they run into Ned Blunt, who is crazy about Lucetta because she's obviously beautiful and didn't charge for her services and is expecting him later that evening. The men arrive at Angelica's house, and Wilmore realizes that he can't afford her monthly fee. Don Pedro arrives and expresses his interest for Angelica and how it's a bargain of 1,000 crowns to have a month with her. Angelica announces that she is only interested in the person who can bid the highest. Don Antonio appears and also makes his interest in Angelica clear, which angers Don Pedro after hearing him question if he can get away with sleeping with Angelica and Florinda, which eventually causes them to fight. Due to the fact that Don Pedro is masked, Don Antonio mistakes him for Belleville when Don Pedro challenges him to a duel for Florinda's honor. After the argument between Don Pedro and Antonio, Don Pedro leaves, and Wilmore then takes a photo of Angelica off of the wall. This angers Don Antonio, who starts to fight with Wilmore, but is stopped by the guards. Angelica is angered due to the fact that the two men interested in her have both left, and she calls on Wilmore to enter her home to answer for his disturbances. Inside, he berates her for putting a price on her love and convinces her to sleep with him for free. Florinda, Helena, and Valeria and Callis, the governess, all enter in different costumes on the street. Helena mentions her desire for Wilmore, and they later see the men and hide. The boys enter and looking for Wilmore, who appears and is boasting about his success with Angelica. While he's just talking about how he's nearly forgotten all about Helena, she appears and immediately he starts flirting with her once more. Angelica later appears and notices the two flirting and orders her guards to follow Helena to learn more about her. Florinda then tests Belleville's loyalty by flirting with him while in disguise, and he doesn't accept the locket she offers until he is pressured by his friends. And later he sees her face within the locket and is determined to rescue her. Servant in Lucetta grabs Ned Blunt to report to her during this time as well. When he then goes to her room, gets undressed, leaving all his valuables on off his person, and suddenly the lights go out and he is thrown out the window. Florinda manages to escape and goes to the garden to wait on Belleville. There she is met with a drunk Wilmore who tries to rape her, and Belleville and Frederick come to her rescue. Don Pedro then arrives, which forces Florinda to flee. Belleville then goes and challenges Wilmore to a duel based on his actions with Florinda, but Wilmore declines. Don Antonio then appears, claiming to have purchased Angelica, causing Wilmore to get angry, injure him, and leave. Belleville tries to tend to the injured Don Antonio, but gets wrongfully accused of being Wilmore by accident and gets carried off with Don Antonio's guards. In Don Antonio's house, Belleville is forced to duel in place of Don Antonio due to his injury, and Belleville does fight Don Pedro and wins. But just as Don Pedro approves of his love, for Florinda, his identity is revealed, and Don Pedro runs away with Florinda. Florinda then approaches Ned Blunt, and he tries to rape her. And Frederick appears and locks her away due to the fact she claims to come from noble birth, and plans to hold her until they confirm this is true. The boys enter, and Don Pedro manages to go and save her, and she reveals her identity, and the boys apologize for their actions. She forgives them and declares that she will marry Belleville, and following this, Valeria and Frederick announce the same, and a priest randomly walks by and officiates both couples before Don Antonio can appear and decline the marriage. Eventually, after some arguing with Angelica and Don Antonio, Wilmore is left alone with Helena and offers to marry her, and they do.
Okay, so the historical context. Before the play was set, there was an English Civil War in the years of 1642 to 1651. It was between the parliamentaries and the royalists over the English government. The royalists supported King Charles I, who wanted absolute control over the monarchy. The parliamentaries wanted to gain constitutional monarchy. Cromwell came to power and led the parliamentaries. The war resulted to the defeat of Charles I, and he was beheaded due to his tyranny behaviors. Cromwell established the Commonwealth government, which is basically allowing the people to have more say and have more involvement with the state. In 1660, Cromwell wished to pass down his reign to his son, Richard, but they felt like he was unfit for the role because they found out that Cromwell was prosecuting a bunch of Catholics, and so they thought that Richard was going to act the same. So instead, they decided to crown Charles II, who is Charles I's son. A lot of the characters were based off of the royalist veterans of the Civil War. Charles II, his goal was to reinstate the English National Theatre because before, Cromwell actually shut down the theater and banned it for 18 years before Charles II became in reign, and he unbanned it. And the reason why Cromwell banned the theater is because it went against Puritan beliefs, and they thought that it spread lies and it caused propaganda. The Rover was set in 1656 during the Restoration period. So after Charles II decided to allow more plays and allowing the theater to be open, a lot of the plays went against the Puritan beliefs, and they kind of like full sent. They were full of sexualized humor and a lot of like lavish staging because Charles II was all about spending money and having big sceneries. He focused a lot on entertainment and he rebelled against the parliament. And then he dismissed his father's debt, which resulted into the country being in poverty and also like spending a lot of money on the theater and arts. So yeah. So carnivals were held during Easter as an important holiday for the Christian church. Carnivals could also be used for feast celebration and parades. And this is important because the rover was actually set in a masked carnival. And so the mask can be used to conceal their identity, and women would use them often to sneak out and enjoy some fun. And you can see that in the play with the two main leads. Helena and Forlinda used masks to disguise themselves and to enter the event because they weren't really allowed to go inside because it was a male event only. There was 3 styles that kind of focused a lot in the play. So again, there's mass. It allowed actors and actresses to play characters outside of the social class. So a lot of the actors were kind of like, actors were very poor and broke. And so they played higher classes and the audience wouldn't like really see the difference because they were hiding their identity. It allowed more freedom in their movement. Audience again was not capable of seeing the performer's expression, which allowed the characters to be more sneaky with their movements and like their body. Comedy was was more popular during this period because Charles II encouraged sexualized humor, and then censorship was taken very lightly. He didn't really care about hiding anything from lines. Like he kind of just wanted everything to be more funny, and he felt like vulgar language was a lot funnier than just normal ones. The 5-act structure was also in the play. It allowed the playwright to go more in depth with the story instead of the normal 3-act.
All right, and so now we will be doing a recording of the scene between Ned Blunt and Lucetta right as her plan comes to fruition and she basically gets him to remove all of his valuables and throw him off the building.
Now we are safe and free, no fears of coming home of my old jealous husband, which made me a little doubtful when you came in first. But now, love is all the business of my soul.
I am transported, poxed on that I have but some fine things to say to her. Such lovers use. Was not a fool to learn of Fred, a little heart before I came. Something I must say. Sickness, sweet soul, I'm not used to us to compliment, but I'm an honest gentleman and thy humble servant.
I have nothing to pay for so great of a favor, with such a love as cannot be great, since at first sight of the sweet face and shape, it made me your absolute captive.
Kind heart, how prettily she talks. Gad, I'll show her husband a Spanish trick, send him out of the world, and marry her. She'll damnably be in love with me, and never mind the settlements so she'd save.
Well, sir, I'll go and undress me, and be with you instantly.
Make haste then, this heartless. Dear soul, thou cannot guess the pain of a longing lover when his joys are drawn within the compass of a few minutes.
You speak my sense, and I'll make haste provided.
'Tis a rare girl, and this one night's of enjoyment will be with her for all her days. I ever past Essex would go with me into England, to thou truth say. There's plenty of whores there already, but pox on 'em, such a mercantary prodigal hose that wants such as this one, that's free and generous, to give good examples. Why, what a house she has, how rich, how fine. Sir, I shall be proud to follow. Here's one of her servants too, just Heartlands, by his grab and gravity. He might be a justice of peace in Essex, and here he is but a pimp. Sir, I'll excuse your compliment. What in bed is of my sweet mistress?
You see, I still outdo you in kindness.
And thou shalt make haste when I quit discourse. O luckiest rogue!
She'd be false or cruel now.
False, skin heartless, what thou make take me a Jew? Insensible heathen, a pox of thy jealous husband, and he were dead, gad, sweet soul. It should be none of my fault if I do not marry thee.
It never should be mine.
Good soul, I'm the fortunate dog.
Are you undressed yet?
As much as my patience will permit.
Ho, sir, put out a light. It may betray us else.
And anything I need, no other light but then the eyes of mine, skin heartless, there I think I had it. Why? Why? Where am I got? What? Not yet. Where are you, sweetness? Ah, the rogue silent, and how a pretty love trick this. Oh, how she'll laugh at me anon. You need not, my dear. You need not. All I'm afire ready. Come, come. Now come on to me. Sir, I'm enchanted. I have been around the chamber and cannot find neither woman nor bed. I locketh the door. I'm not sure she cannot go this way, or if she could, the bed cannot be far. Enough, enough. My pretty woman wanton, do not carry jest too far. Ah, betray dogs, rogues, pimps, help!